John Simpson is set to retire as Chief Editor of the Oxford English Dictionary shortly, so we take this opportunity to ask him a few questions about his working life. How do you think dictionaries have changed since you started work here in, back in 1976?
76, well when I first came into the office in 1976, not this way, but we were down a little street near the press. Yeah, we were all working on index cards at the time. We had to, all the material we had, well, our database for the time, was a whole series of cards in filing cabinets. And we were working through the alphabet alphabetically, and we were given, as junior editors, these cards for words within our range, and we used to work with those. Nowadays,
a little bit different.
it's a bit different. There's, we still have the cards, but we also work alongside enormous databases and a computer editing software.
So what would you say are the main differences now from when you started? I mean, obviously your role now is much more senior, so has that changed the actual day-to-day working?
Well, when you started off, I think I probably spent the first 5 years on the OED just learning the ropes, learning the rules. There are so many rules to learn, and applying them, and then getting your work checked by a senior editor, learning how to do it. So yeah, it's just like starting any job. There's an awful lot to learn. Whereas and you're working on the easier words to start with, and then you build up.
Such things exist.
We tend to move to the sort of bigger abstract words later on, the longer words in many more senses, a long history in the language, etc. So yeah, and so later on, more senior editors do possibly more complex words. As the more experience they get, they start reviewing other people's work, and in the end, myself and the deputy chief editor review everything that the department prepares ready for publication.
So what are the best parts of doing this job, would you say?
Well, I think one of the things that everybody likes is finding an antedating, an earlier use of a word, and being the first person for maybe 200 or 300 years to realise this is the first recorded use we have so far of a word in the English language. So yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. I remember we managed to take, I think it was numismatics or numismatists back from the 19th century, just tipped it back into the 18th century, and that was nice when you can do that sort of thing. So yeah, bringing any long forgotten information back to public view, putting it online so everyone can see it, I think is nice. It's great.
Do you feel proprietorial about a word? So if you drafted it, say, and it's gone into the dictionary, do you think of it as, I put that word into the dictionary?
Well, we don't sign the articles in the dictionary ourselves because it's a sort of group effort, and lots of people have a hand in the entry. So somebody will write the etymology, somebody else will work on science vocabulary, somebody will work on general vocabulary, somebody else will do the new words. So in the end, I mean, it's a sort of communal effort. It's a joint effort. I don't really feel proprietorial myself, and I didn't when I was working on smaller entries as we were working through.
What about the worst part of the job? There's got to be something negative, surely, about it. No?
It's tricky. Meetings. I don't much like meetings because they interfere with the editing time available.
The actual bones of what we do.
By editing and trying to produce the perfect picture of the English language over the centuries, but never achieve that. But it's more interesting than being in a meeting.
Is there a particular dictionary entry that you could single out as one that you've really enjoyed working on, that stands out in some way?
I like the ones that show sort of a beautiful progression of senses over time and through different periods of history. So I mean, I quite like working on a word like culture, for example, which starts off meaning the cultivation of the soil in the Middle Ages. A little bit later, when you get into the early modern period, it starts meaning the cultivation of plants and crops, then breeding animals, and then rearing biological cultures, and then at the same sort of time the refinement of the mind, that sort of culture, and latest of all the sort of national culture that you have. So yeah, it's sort of you look at all the historical evidence for it, and you analyse it, and it all makes a sort of coherent picture.
What's been the most troublesome word?
Troublesome word.
Or difficult, if you like.
I mean, in general, abstract words are more complicated than concrete words. I mean, things like grace and love and those sort of words where there's abstract sensations and emotions, abstract concepts in theology. They're quite tricky to to see precisely what was meant, to identify which particular subsense of the word was intended in a use that maybe comes from 1736. When you're not that familiar with mid-18th century speak, it's tricky. So you have to use your own intuition. You can talk to colleagues and ask what their opinion is of how it all fits together. So yeah, there are more questions that arise from those sort of words than from all straightforward concrete words.
Do you feel any pressure being at the helm of what many people consider to be the authority on the English language?
We come from a slightly different angle in that we don't regard ourselves as an authority. We regard the work that we do as accurate as we can, and therefore other people can regard us as an authority. But we don't regard ourselves as telling people how they should speak the language. So there isn't really that sort of sense of sort of the weight of authority.
Everyone's expectations on you.
Yeah, I don't think so. And anyway, if you allowed yourself to get weighed down by that, you'd never be chief editor of the OED or an MP or whatever. You have to get on with the job and deal with what comes past you on the word train. What
are you going to miss most about being the chief editor of the OED?
Well, I mean, the words, the people, I mean, everything really. I mean, I shall miss the sort of tussling with the complex historical development of word and just talking to the guys here about how to do things.
Anything you won't miss? Or shouldn't you say?
Well, I won't miss coming in every day.
The
commute. Yeah, I mean, I think probably, it's nice. It's, after 37 years, I'm quite looking forward to doing a few things that I quite like to do myself during the week, rather than coming on here and just sorting out the dictionary again.
And because no interview is complete without this question, what's your favourite word?
Oh, well, I don't really have a favourite word. Professionally, we don't have favourite words because we scientifically observe all language and report back on our findings. Therefore, although I like some entries like I don't know, Human magazine, some of the smaller entries for Renaissance art, for example, or painting terms, and I can appreciate the entries like poems, if you like. I don't have a favourite word because that's not very professional.